There are battles in history that never appear in any textbook, not because they lacked blood, but because they revealed something far deeper: the power of restraint, the courage of silence, and the moment a soldier's dignity outweighed his weapon. It was the summer of 2007 at a remote U.S. Army forward operating base near Kandahar, Afghanistan. The heat was merciless. Dust hung in the air like a veil over tension. Among the ranks stood Sergeant Daniel Cross, a quiet, steadfast communications specialist known not for his rank but for his calm. And then there was Captain Ronald Harker, loud, ambitious, and quick to crush dissent. He believed fear built obedience, and he used it like a hammer. The men whispered that Cross had once stopped a convoy ambush by instinct alone. Harker didn't like whispers he couldn't control. When a patrol's intel report conflicted with his orders, Harker accused Cross of insubordination, right there in front of 50 soldiers. The captain's voice cut through the air. "Do you question me, Sergeant?" Cross stood tall, hands behind his back, eyes steady. "I question what's right, sir." That sentence, measured, quiet, and defiant, was enough. Harker's pride couldn't allow such insolence. So he issued an order meant not for tactics, but humiliation. He forced Cross to lead a doomed rout, a mission through unverified terrain. Every man on that base knew this was not war. It was a test of submission. At dawn, Cross stood at the edge of the outpost, gear strapped, rifle slung. The captain waited behind, watched. But before Cross could step forward, the radio crackled. A surveillance drone had just confirmed what Cross predicted: the rout was mined. A beat of silence spread through the camp, the kind that bends time. Then Cross turned, not with rage, not with triumph, but with a soldier's stillness. He placed his rifle on the ground, stepped toward the captain, and said quietly, "Permission to not die for your mistake, sir." The words struck harder than any bullet. The captain froze. Around him, 50 pairs of eyes bore witness to truth. That moment, that refusal, disciplined and precise, ended the battle before it began. The fight that should have taken lives was won by restraint. The battlefield, for once, fell completely silent. For a long moment, no one moved. Even the wind seemed to pause over the base. Captain Harker's face flushed red, not from the heat, but from something far more painful: humiliation. He barked out, "Sergeant, you're confined to quarters!" But no one obeyed. The platoon sergeant stepped forward, breaking rank protocol. "Sir, with respect, Sergeant Cross just saved this unit from walking into a field of IEDs." The statement landed like a gavel. Harker's authority began to tremble. Every man watching knew leadership built on pride collapses under truth. Later that night, Cross was summoned by the battalion commander, Colonel Denton. The colonel had heard everything. He didn't shout, he didn't smile. He simply asked, "Why didn't you confront him earlier?" Cross looked up, calm as ever. "Because confrontation wins nothing, sir. Proof does." The colonel nodded. "And restraint?" Cross paused. "Restraint wins the kind of battles no one celebrates, but everyone remembers."
The next morning, orders arrived. Captain Harker was reassigned, officially for command adjustment. Unofficially, the men said he'd lost a war to a man who never fired a shot. When Cross walked through the camp, soldiers saluted with a quiet respect reserved not for medals, but for moral courage. The moral was clear. Power may command obedience, but integrity commands loyalty. And sometimes the hardest thing a warrior can do is not fight.
Years passed. The war changed names. The bases closed, and the desert winds erased the footprints of that forgotten outpost. But among veterans' gatherings, one story kept resurfacing about a sergeant who refused to march man into death just to serve another's ego. It became known as the battle that wasn't fought with bullets. You'd hear it told around campfires, in training sessions, and whispered to new recruits whenever arrogance started to show in a young officer's tone. Daniel Cross never sought recognition. He retired quietly, tending to a small ranch in Montana. But those who visited him said that his rifle still hung above the fireplace, spotless, untouched. When asked why he never fired it after that day, he'd simply say, "Because once you learn when not to shoot, you've already won the hardest war." And in that simple line lived the essence of true leadership, the kind that doesn't need to conquer, only to stand for what's right.